I got my bitches back, blah, blah, blah.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and we're live.
Welcome, everyone, to another Open Agenda BitShares talk on the Beyond Bitcoin Network. Today is Saturday, May 12th, 2018, and I'm Official Fuzzy, and I'm pleased to join you every Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern to cover a crowdsourced agenda gathered from our RSVP thread on at steemit.com at Official Fuzzy. If you would like to have your project covered or your opinions on a certain topic heard, please join up and post according to the template provided. We join each week to offer meetups without geographical boundaries or paywalls required for coverage and work to ensure that we leverage the time, and we also ensure that we leverage our time to enable people to live stream it to their own channels. We want to make this so it's a place that is open, and where everybody can spread the word about what's going on in the BitShares ecosystem from a grassroots perspective. We also use the world's first cross-chain utility tokens as we build Voltron by rewarding community members for helping BTS and BTS synergistic projects. So these talks will generally last 45 to 90 minutes and will offer projects in the BitShares ecosystem visibility and an opportunity to connect with the community and field community questions regarding projects that they feel are important to their holdings in the BitShares network. So join us, like I said before, every week at 9 a.m. Eastern on on BitShares Talk Discord or BitShares Discord, which can be found. We will provide links in these Hangout uploads. Now, with that said, every week we have an agenda, and that agenda first is going to start out with, I'm going to start adding these in more. We're going to be giving general announcements on community initiatives. And these community initiatives that we kind of talked about in the very beginning here, they are powered by BitShares and the first mutual aid chain called Steem. And we're going to be enabling many more connections in the future. But we leverage these tokens to create challenges and contests and initiatives for the community members who might not be coders or offer specific value propositions in that regard. But for people who might be interested in leveraging their social networks or maybe writing something cool about a topic that they care about that we've put up for something, to participate in an initiative that might help the community in some way, shape, or form, or to maybe make art and memes and things like this. So we try to empower kind of a grassroots fashion in these Hangouts. And we have leveraged this technology to be able to accomplish things in crypto that very few people can say that they have. So I look very much forward to continuing to do these with you guys, and even more so to disrupting ourselves in the process as we move forward, which I won't get too much into, but just to let you know it's coming. Now, with that said, the contests and challenges for this week, and then we're going to go into the Steem Power BitShares State of the Network report. We'll follow that up by Fox, who's going to be the first guest speaker for today, and he is going to be giving the BitShares core team update. We'll then follow that by that Sweeney guy who has the Steem House makerspace that he would like to talk a little bit about here in the Hangout today. And we will follow that with DNA with Greg, who's going to be talking about, well, DNA and the Age project. And if we have some time at the end, which I believe we will try to get Talkinator on to discuss some of his updates and important points that he would like to bring to the people who are listening and the people who are here live this week. So before we get into all the other ones, let's go ahead and dive into contests and challenges. We had the project Milkbox mission announcement outreach initiative, and it was running strong this week, but then we actually took it to the next level, and We succeeded in making contact with Craig R. Sawyer of Veterans for Child Protection. We have actually, I had an audience with him and talked to him about Project Milkbox as an idea, leveraging Mutual Aid Society DAC technology to help people put up bounties for and finding missing loved ones. Now, with that said, we also had the participation challenge, and sometimes everybody here who is familiar with it, when you're on Twitter, a lot of people will put up polls and they will say, you know, what is the best cryptocurrency? What is the cryptocurrency that we should leverage? What cryptocurrency should we add next to our centralized exchange? There's a lot of different things out there, but we had this week the ability to get the community all working together and coordinated around an initiative to upvote the BitShares DEX on the tweet that we have actually on the thread in Official Fuzzy on steemit.com. So if you ever go and you see these types of challenges, you can click on those links, go in, open it up, find out all the details, how much you're going to earn for participating in these events, and you can download your BitShares wallet right there if you do not already have it, so you can start running with everybody within minutes. And then we also had the Project Milkbox tweet off, which was part of the Milkbox mission that we had, which was just directly thanking him for his time and for taking the community all reaching out to him at once very well, and appreciating the message that we brought using this cryptocurrency that we call BitShares. So all in all, if you were somebody who likes to write, who has an email address, can vote, or can tweet, you pretty much made some tokens this week in various projects that are graphene related. So congratulations to you guys, and thank you for participating if you did. If you didn't, consider doing so. It's something that you can do to make some tokens with the time that you would already be spending in crypto, looking around elsewhere and doing all kinds of different things. But you can make some tokens and also help projects that I think are some of the best ideas in crypto. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and get onto the BitShares State of the Network report. BitShares State of the Network report. The 2018 Global Graphene Blockchain Development Conference has successfully concluded in Shanghai. With over 40 speakers and over 1,000 attendees from all over the world, this conference was a massive success. @JadeMont, as one of the organizers, has uploaded a gallery of pictures and video recordings of the event, which can be found in the link provided within the BitShares State of the Network report. Next is Annemieke Dirks, I think I said that correctly, announced the launch of the Graphene Foundation, which has been founded as a Dutch nonprofit organization. The foundation will have 3 key representatives, which are divided geographically. Alfredo Garcia at Ox Arbitrage will represent the USA, Fabian Shu at Xerox for Europe, and a China representative is to be announced. Up next is Annemieke Dirks announced the upcoming BitFest conference to be held on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of September 2018 in Amsterdam. Next, Exablock has announced development of Bitcoin payment sidechains that will allow all Bitcoin owners direct access to the company's graphene-based decentralized applications. Exablock has invested nearly 1,000 hours in programmer and development time on the sidechain, which is nearing completion. Big milestone. Up next is Hungarian Cryptocurrency Foundation has announced the launch of Nowcoin on the BitShares blockchain. The Nowcoin market game was invented to create a social ecosystem for Nowcoin, with holders motivated to enter and hold Nowcoin, and with merchants interested in supplying services to the network members in exchange for Nowcoin. So with that said, I want to thank everybody who participates in these Hangouts, who joins up to these Hangouts, and I want to urge everyone, if you haven't already done so, check out @SteamPower on steemit.com. He will also be on beta.whaleshares.net in the coming months. But I want to let everybody know this is where you go to read the full report that we create just an excerpt, or we state read out an excerpt every week for. Now, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for the guest speakers, and that's going to start off with Fox. So, Fox, if you would like to step up, give us some updates, let us know how the conference went, and just in general, give us your updates.
Thanks, Fuzzy. Great to be here again. Good morning, good evening to everybody out there. I'm Ryan R. Fox. I am the coordinator for the BitShares core team, and it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on. Missed you guys. We were busy last week at the DEF CON conference, so I wanted to just give you a quick update on what the team has been up to and what we're doing going forward. I've got a lot to share, and I'm going to try to keep it in the time period that we've got, and then I'm going to stick around for the after party and take some more questions there at the end. So I just wanted to toot my horn a little bit about the team. Since last we spoke, we did have a feature release that came out on 25th of April. So that's out there under the master branch, and it's tagged as 2.0 2018-0425. Yes. All right. Just download the master. You'll get the latest feature release. We are really growing as a team. We're averaging now about 80 hours of work per week as a team. You can follow along and see our progress as documented at bitshares.foundation/worker, and you can there find our bi-monthly reports on what we've done, who's done it, and how you guys are compensating the team through our worker proposal. So thanks again to you, the community, for voting this worker proposal and keeping us contributing back to the BitShares core. All right, we did grow one additional team member here on the core team in the last period. That's John M. Jones. So he is on as a core developer, primarily doing some C++ coding, along with Abit, Alfredo, and Peter. We are, one other thing that happened was that Abit, he had a worker proposal that he had himself, and then that expired, and now he is full-time on this worker proposal. So all of his time is now being compensated through the core team worker proposal. Great. We are, of course, still looking for more great contributors, and we want to make sure that you follow along on our GitHub site. So we're github.com/bitshares/bitshares-core, and in there you can take a look at our project backlog that is coming along. So we worked at the DevCon conference to make better use of GitHub as our collaboration platform, and we're really trying to turn around to the community and show them how we're prioritizing things, what we're actively working on, and what we're looking to do in the future. So we'll take a look. Probably next week I'll talk a little bit more here and show you guys a little bit about how that project backlog is going to work. Yeah, so that's kind of what we've been doing as a team. So let's go on and talk a little bit about what's upcoming here. So we have a testnet release that is coming out. It's the software is available. So if you go to the GitHub site and you switch the branch to testnet, you'll be downloading the latest tag, which has the prefix of test. So it's test-2.0.180510. Right. So that just came out a couple of days ago, and inside of that there is hard coded in there is a hard fork trigger, which will happen a week from today, so next Saturday on 19 May at about 1400 UTC, then all of the new code that's in there will start to work. So we'll be doing that on the testnet, of course. So what we want to have people do is help us test this. Anybody can help test in the testnet. Anybody can get a free account there. All you have to do is go to testnet.bitshares.eu, and there's a wallet. You can you can get a new account set up. We're going to provide some instructions for what we want you to do as an end user that will allow you to create some short positions, and then we're going to make sure that we test those mechanics after that hard fork passes. All right, so there's a testnet thread that's on the BitShares Talk forum. We got lots in this, and this is why we need your help. So we've got 12 different BSIPs that are included in this. We also have at least 6 consensus impacting bug fixes, and then we've got a handful of other additional enhancements that are in there. ABIT has done a great job of posting a Steemit article, so I hope that you can go through and see a bit about that. I think Talkinator is going to talk a little bit later in the program, more detail about what's in there. Lots and lots of exciting stuff that's in there. You can tell that this team is really doing great work by the amount of BSIPs that are being included in this one. All right, so this is all on the testnet. That's what's happening in the next couple of weeks. If you are if you're technical and you have the ability or desire to run a block producing node on the testnet, you can also do that. That would be very helpful. We ask that then you just reply in the BitShares Talk forum thread there and just tell us what your name, what your block producer name is, and then you'll get voted in, and then you can be part of testing that way as well. So both technical people who want to run a block producing node can help, and then just end users, traders who want to be able to test the code can help. What comes after that, of course, is then actually releasing the code onto the mainnet. So we allow plenty of time for testing, and then we also allow plenty of time after the code is frozen and released to get it implemented onto the active block producer network, and then to allow some time for the community to review it and then vote if they actually want to have it implemented. So the software should be released by 12th of June, and then we will code in a trigger for those hard forks to actually take effect about 1 month later. So we are tentatively targeting 12th of July. Again, we're going to do it near 1400 UTC. That's just a good time kind of globally, and especially for our business partners that are making use of this, the exchanges and the other businesses that implement the BitShares code. This will be something that they have to upgrade prior to that hard fork date in mid-July. So make sure, everybody out there, that if you depend on the BitShares network to process blocks for you and your business logic is dependent upon those witness nodes, make sure that you're ready to be upgraded. We encourage you, of course, to test it ahead of time on our testnet and provide us any feedback that you may have. All right, so that's what's going on there. Let me move on to our DevCon. All right, so we heard a little bit about what was going on in Shanghai last week, actually just at this time 1 week back. Took a handful of the development of the core team along there. So we had Alfredo and Tamami Takanator and SVK as well. SVK is our liaison to the UI team. So he and Bill Butler lead the UI team. But of course, we as the core team make sure that we have an interface to the UI team. So the 5 of us were there representing the core team and participating in presenting, meeting with attendees, talking about BitShares, talking about Graphene, what makes it great, what makes the BitShares platform great, listening to what it was that the community is interested in seeing going forward. forward, what's being developed, listening to businesses who are interested in developing on top of this platform, what are their needs, and making sure that we take that back and then prioritize that into our development efforts as we move forward. So I just wanted to call out a few of the great presentations that were had by members of our BitShares community. This event was hosted by GDEX. They were one of the primary sponsors there, and that's a company that BitCrab is part of, and so he hosted this. Was thrilled to be there along with his partner Jademont. So he was really instrumental in making sure that we were well taken care of while we were there, and just had presented just a great, well organized conference. Jademont was also one of the panel moderators. He moderated both the BitShares panel and then the EOS panel as well. I hosted the graphene panel on the first day, which was pretty interesting. Some other things, but I think one of the highlights for me was really watching Alfredo Garcia up there. You know, he's one of our core team developers, and he got up there to talk about how do we develop the smart contracts on top of BitShares. So he went through the pattern of, how do you create new operations, and he used the escrow as the demonstration that he gave. And after this presentation, after he was done, he was mobbed. There were so many people standing around him wanting to learn more. It was outstanding. So we could tell straight away that, having the BitShares core team there to do presentations was extremely valuable. So, special call out to Alfredo for making that presentation. Fabian was there talking about the BitShares Python library, which has been so valuable for many developers as they onboard and try to understand how can we connect to BitShares and to any of the graphene chains, because it's extensible in that way. I was there. I talked about sustainable development and how we make, basically what allowed me to be there on stage was the worker proposal, and how our funds come out of the reserve pool. Christoph Herring, he was there talking about Pager. Jonathan Mahai, he was there talking about peer plays, and of course we heard that he's got some exciting news coming with an atomic swap there to Bitcoin for his graphene-based project. Exciting stuff there. Astor from Scorum, he had just probably one of the most compelling presentations from a technical standpoint, talking about what could it look like, how could we enhance graphene to make it even faster. So he talks about separating the reads and the writes to the database, and really expanding the way that this infrastructure could be modified to help us even more so with scalability. Really exciting there. Harvey from Oracle Chain, he's a longtime BitShares member and now really focused on some EOS development there, was very interesting. And on and on. So I don't have time to go through and talk about everybody, but needless to say, a very valuable conference, and we look forward next to BitFest, which is coming up in the end of September, from 21 September over the long weekend in Amsterdam. So make sure that you check out bitfest.in to come and join for our next graphene and BitShares related conference. All right, really excited. Thanks again, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys. So until next week, cheers.
Well, real quick, do you have a couple minutes for anybody who has any questions?
I want to respect the amount of time that you got for the other guest, and certainly I will be here for the after party to take more detailed questions, but absolutely, let's take some briefly.
Okay, we got just about 2 minutes left anyway. So does anybody have any questions or comments that they would like to bring up regarding any of what Fox just covered? I know it was a lot. I'm sorry for trying to boil it down to 2 minutes for you guys, but...
I was just wondering whether or not anything was done regarding the sign-up procedure and onboarding of paths to recovery and stuff like that. Going back to the roots of what new users experience when they first touch BitShares, if anybody's talking about or dealing with that kind of thing.
Maybe I missed the point was onboarding new users. Is that what you were saying?
specific to the way that when you first create a BitShares account, if you have to recover your wallet and back it up, that kind of thing. A lot of people are creating cloud wallets. They're saving their passwords in their browser and that kind of thing, and they don't realize the difference between local wallet, cloud wallet.
So we actually had some discussions with SVK on that topic, and he is working along with the rest of the UI team to really go through and try to enhance that process so that it does become more clear. It's largely outside of the scope of what the core team was working on, but I will tell you that that Bill and SVK and the rest of the UI team are working to remedy that, make it more efficient for new users to come and make sure that they are secure in the way that they're creating that account, storing their password, making sure that they have a secure user experience going forward.
What did you hear over there about this new bench topic that I keep hearing about on Steam?
Thanks, Tom. Good question. You know, bench did not come up at all during the topics on stage. I will tell you that there was a great panel that had 4 of the 6 largest proxy voters up there talking about BitShares, kind of the state of BitShares, what's going on, what's the future look like. And I guess I'll give you briefly my takeaway from that one was that, look, EOS is coming, no question. You know, the BitShares core team is well aware of that. Yeah. The BitShares blockchain foundation is aware of that, as are the large proxy voters. They're watching. Everybody is watching at this time. And what we heard the panelists up there saying, those largest proxy voters saying, was it's time to research. It's time to figure out what's possible. But at this time, we want to remain an independent chain. That's important to BitShares to remain independent. And then once EOS is launched, to consider what works and determine what can be implemented within BitShares thereafter.
Okay, thank you.
I have some thoughts on that matter, but I will not be bringing them up at this point in time. However, I will say, obviously, Fox has said that he will be here during the after party. So thank you, Fox, for joining up today and joining up every time you do to give updates on all the fronts that you guys are covering. This is meant to be a place for people like you guys to be able to join up, to talk about what you need to talk about and get it out into the archives of what's going on and get noticed for what you're talking about or what you're doing in the space. So we try to keep this open. We try to make this so it is a place where everybody in an entire community can leverage. And those of you who do this, you're being very transparent. You're making yourself available to be answering questions from the community, which I think is also extremely important. And for any of those of you who are listening to this now or after the fact, please consider, if you hear people doing things that you think are valuable, going and supporting their blogs and supporting them in general wherever you see it. It might only just take 5-10 seconds of your time, but it doesn't always have to be money. Even just sharing these types of this content or cutting it out and sharing it with people, just the spot that you wanted everybody to hear. These are the types of ways that we can spread the word and teach people, not only with textbook style teaching lessons, but real world use cases of what's going on in this space. Now, with that said, that Sweeney guy is going to be here to present the Steam House to the BitShares community. Feel free, that Sweeney guy, to step up to the plate if you're here.
All right. Thanks so much for letting me be here today. Some of the people in the audience already know about the Steam House. I've been trying to build this real world Steam, or rather blockchain project for roughly 3 months or so now. My intention is to build a physical makerspace, and that is essentially a collaborative workshop. We will have all sorts of machines, tools, and software like 3D printers. We'll have Photoshop licenses and things like that. We will have wood cutting tools, laser cutters, you name it. If you can make something with your hands, we will have the machines and equipment inside our space to do it. The one thing that makes our makerspace different is that we will be educating all of our members on how best to utilize blockchain platforms like Steemit and EOS when it comes out, the BitShares chain when it comes out. We can educate these new members, onboard them to blockchains, and show them how these new decentralized, incentivized social media platforms can actually help them earn money for their creativity, help them fund new projects, or even go so far as to help them start their own business, doing something that they would truly enjoy doing. We are crowdfunding currently to using a BitShares token to open the space. The Steamhouse token will have a maximum supply of 1 million tokens. We're selling half of those to open the space. All we have to sell to get our physical space open is the first 150,000 tokens at 20 cents a piece. That's roughly $30,000 US. That would pretty much guarantee our success. That would help us pay the rent and utilities for the first upwards of 2 years on the lease. And I've told numerous people in our local community and on Steemit as well, you give me an empty room that's 3,000 square feet, and I promise you I will connect it to the blockchain and make money with it. I have a bonus going on for anybody that's listening and cares to support our initiative right now. Any purchases that are made with BitShares exclusively, since this is the BitShares talk, I'm giving a 20% bonus transfer after the show is over. I'll go back and check all transfers that were made with BitShares, and I will be dropping 20% bonus on anybody who supports us. These tokens are going to be able to be used inside and out of our space. Local members of the local community will be able to use these tokens to pay for their monthly membership fees. They'll be able to buy project supplies or buy tickets for workshops and classes that we do inside the space. Anyone that holds these tokens in a digital form that may never interact with our physical space can still use these tokens to purchase things, art, sculptures, gadgets, anything that we make inside the space. We will help our members sell that art and create and the things that they make. We will create an online store, and people can use the Steamhouse tokens to purchase things from us that we make inside the space. And let's see, we have a buyback program for that. Once we reach the final stages of our crowdfund and our makerspace is open, we've raised money to get our equipment and we're running smooth, we are going to start buying back any of these Steamhouse tokens that anyone does. If you don't want to use these tokens to trade for things, we will gladly buy those tokens back from you, because we will be selling them inside of our space to our local community so that they can use them inside our space. So we are the Steamhouse right now, until we open our physical space, we are essentially building a community of creatives and makers. We have a Discord channel set up, or a Discord server, and I've recently set up 15 different post-promotion channels there for all sorts of creative content, whether that be art that you're making, music that you're making, something you've programmed. Come and show it to us, and we're going to start writing curation articles. We're essentially trying to build a big base community so that when we start onboarding people to Steemit and EOS and BitShares from our local community, they kind of already have a community that's ready and ready to digest the content that they're putting out there. We have a full website. Currently, I am pretty much a one-man team. My fiance is my partner, but she has been so incredibly busy finishing up her business administration degree. She's going to be the full business end of us, and I'm this crazy entrepreneur that wants to change the world and help a bunch of creatives make money doing something they really like instead of going to a job 9 to 5 and working for somebody else doing something that they're never going to get any real appreciation out of. It's so hard to think that your creativity could become your job, and that's essentially what I'm trying to open up in the makerspace. I'm offering a space for anyone to come and express their creativity in any way they could possibly imagine, and be rewarded for the value that they are putting out there.
Sounds fantastic.
Like I said, this has been about 3 months in the works, and as soon as we finish the first stage of our crowdfund, we're in the door and we're rolling. I think somebody up top said something about $30,000 for 2 years of expenses, and that $30,000 is essentially the largest overheads that our space will accrue over that first couple of years. That covers our rent and probably most of our utility bill for that first couple of years. Once we get those big overheads out of the way, that gives us time to build a customer base with our local community and get people start paying us the monthly fees, so that when that initial money runs out after the first couple of years, we have a nice revenue going that we can continue the space from there.
Where is your makerspace located?
It will be in the capital city of Kentucky in the United States.
Thank you.
And funny enough, almost every time I bring this up, I have people asking me if I would ever, be willing to open up more of them, and I totally would. This could be the first of many, honestly. Once I get a good business model rolling and I can prove that it's successful, I will most certainly help anyone and everyone do the same thing that I'm doing now. Get out there and crowdfund. If you've got some crazy business idea and you want to help other people, by all means, I'll get right behind you and help you promote it.
Ask your fiance how to franchise these.
Yeah, like they do in Europe. That would be great. The European makerspace thing is fantastic.
I've had people approach me from all over the place. I think Germany and Panama were the first two. But from there, man, the sky's the limit. I'll put one on Mars if Elon Musk can get us up there, dude.
Yeah, what have you learned from the experience in the makerspace in the European area? Because when I encountered this about 2 years ago, I was astounded at how long it had been going on there and how entrenched it is in many communities there.
Oh yeah, it's a really big thing here in America too. We have a really big makerspace in 2 separate cities here in Kentucky. Both Lexington and Louisville both have really nice makerspaces, but our capital city is kind of lacking in most areas. And the Steam House could be a way for me to bring money from the world into our little community and help us flourish.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because you have maker spaces where it becomes they become like kind of little hubs of innovation and disruption. And it's almost like planting seeds in various locations where then people come and water the garden. And then there's cool concepts that come from that. And you basically just seed people building their own dreams. And how I see this playing out is leveraging that ecosystem to help people create tokens for their dreams too, and help people distribute tokens in return for kind of like crowdfunding style events for things that they've already done or built, right? Because if it's already built, it's not, it's a promise for a product as opposed to a speculative investment, right? So I think these are kind of like at the root of one of the most important things, this meetups and community activities. But then these are kind of like the powerhouses where you try to build that value in a local way. And I think that's kind of what we need in the world right now, actually, is to see like 3D printing coming online in a hardcore way. Solar power collectives and things like that, like where your community actually works and engages in a little bit of a centralized location, but for their locality, like right for each local area. And then you have them going together and working to build value in various different disruptive technologies, and we create that kind of mesh between multiple technologies, which is really what makerspaces also kind of help with. And what do you have now? You have kind of a social fabric that helps people in a time when we know the world and the world's economy is changing hardcore. So I support the idea of these things, and I can see that you even have a white paper, and you also have an announcement for the crowdfund, correct?
That's right.
Is there anything that you'd like to talk about that you have in the white paper? Any basic ideas, just like any concepts about how the token might be used, or the mechanics of it that you feel like a newbie should take away from this after they listen to you?
Well, I went over the uses that it's going to be a utility token that people can use inside the space to pay for literally anything that they would be charged for in the makerspace. And people who hold the token digitally will be opening. I think we're going to call it the Maker Mall, and it'll basically be an online store where you can go and buy, little 3D printed whatevers that we make, or unique pieces of art. And these tokens, as I'm selling them, stage 1, they're going to be sold for 20 cents a piece. And then from there, they will increase in price by 10 cents at each stage until we hit our final stage at 50 cents a piece. Now, when our crowdfund is over, I will be selling these inside of our makerspace at hopefully, I want to peg them at $1 per, so that it's kind of easier for people who are used to fiat money. They can easily break these tokens down in their head, instead of, okay, well, the token's worth $2.54 and I've got this many and I owe this much, and it'll be a lot easier if I can try to peg them for $1. But I've stated since the beginning, the open market's going to have its say with that, and if it's worth more, fantastic, and I will personally put in the work to do conversions for people. Beyond that, like I said, we're going to be buying back a lot of these tokens to anyone that is willing to sell them back to us. So this could be a really good investment choice for somebody. If you buy these tokens right now for 20 cents a piece, and we get through our crowdfund, we've got our space open, we're making stuff in the space and generating revenues, we are going to devote an entire portion of all the money that we make in the physical space and on any platform that we earn crypto with. We are going to devote that money to placing open orders on the market at 50 cents a piece. Currently, that looks like a 2.5 times return for anyone who might be willing to support us now and hold on to these tokens for a little while.
And just a question, I want to make it clear, because if you can have this platform and you can have it where you can pay with fiats too, and you guys open it up to fiat and this, let's say, right, the Steamhouse token, now you're basically making actual revenue from the makerspace in addition to the utilization of the token, which will probably be easier for crypto people. But and
that's a huge point, is that I've said from the beginning, once I get in the door and get the big overhead covered that I'm looking to cover, this business is going to support itself, and all the money that we make through Steemit or EOS or Whale Shares or all of this is kind of a big bonus, and it's a way for us to give back to the digital community and our local community. It's a way for us to support and foster the new creatives that we're bringing into these platforms from our local community.
And you have something on your page that says, in celebration of the entire weekend, there will be an extra batch of Steamhouse available at a 50% discount when exchanging for Whaleshare tokens. Is that correct?
That was actually last weekend. I was co-hosting the Whaleshares live post promotion with Freedom Exists, and for that the entire weekend, last weekend, I was giving a 50% discount in exchange for Whaleshares because, oh yeah, I'm trying to stack those Whaleshares for when that chain comes out. If the Steamhouse can get a real nice fat stake in that new chain when the airdrop happens, that just puts us in that much better of a situation to be able to support the business in the long run.
And let's face it, BitShares offers those tokens right now, and we are going to be open sourcing Whaleshares, the code for actually using Whaleshares at some point in the future too, so people can see that. And I'm glad that you guys are helping and supporting the community, because that's why we didn't do an ICO, is to help the community and give people a chance to get into a friends network that's like a ledger for this. So I will say this: if you want to create your own whale token, I think it's a great idea. I think it's also a great idea to leverage that for people to be able to, like, give them out to people in your maker community as it grows. But we won't get too far into that. Real quickly, how would people contact you or get in touch with you if they would like to ask you more questions or give you an input on anything?
They can personally DM me. You can head over to my Discord. I'll drop a link here in just a second. Or just visit the Steamhouse blog. We have a website, or you can email us, and I'll drop all those appropriate links here in just a second.
Okay.
Oh, I've stated a lot that we should be bringing the whale tank back. I saw the room over in Whaleshares, and I was like, "Oh, guys, is that a thing?" Like, because I'd love to go in the whale tank and throw my stuff at, bring my idea up to a bunch of whales and see what they think about it. I love the idea.
Well, if you have a more than a few Whaleshare tokens, you're going, or a lot of BitShares, or even for that matter, Brownie BTS, you'll be getting a pretty fat stake in the network. So you might find that you could have your own whale token and sit on the whale council and distribute tokens to people. But with that said, I'm not very often plugging what we do, so because I like to get to you guys. Just suffice it to say, there are tools coming from good people who have a very similar vision to what I do, and I appreciate what they're offering everybody here, because it enables me to kind of give you guys some of these opportunities. Now, with that said, thank you everybody who's joining up to these Hangouts. Thank you to the people who share our content, who upvote and reward our content. You guys make it possible for me to leverage funding to help build some of these things without having to worry about always coming out of pocket. Most of what I make does go toward helping reward different projects that I believe in. So if you see somebody who's being rewarded and stamped with the Fuzzy Vest account, it's most likely that they are somebody who has been rewarded the tokens themselves, or somebody who's been given tokens by somebody who has been rewarded them, or maybe the occasional person who has purchased them. But they're very often, you don't find the opportunity to buy them too much, even on the market. Now, with that said, DNA with Greg is here, and he's going to be talking about age. And I think this is another disruptive technology and something that we are on the very forefront of to discuss it, because not many are, and it's something that we should be very much looking at. So DNA with Greg, I do appreciate the topic and the project. So please feel free to step up, give your introduction, and give some information about it, and we'll go forward from there. Okay, so it sounds like I saw him in here earlier. Welcome to the live streams, everybody. Sometimes it happens. Okay, well, with that said, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm not the expert in it, and I would hate to pretend to be. However, I will say that DNA editing is a very big deal in, as far as the technology goes, and they are advocating responsible use of it and open sourcing it to the world, so people have the power to understand what otherwise might just get into the hands of a very small few. Very important stuff, guys. We should always be looking at this kind of topic and recognizing that it can be abused, this technology, and we can do it irresponsibly and cause a lot of problems. This is working with genetic code, right? It is code. It might be a slightly different version of code, but it's code nonetheless. And when you can edit that code, you can do some great things potentially and some terrible things potentially, and sometimes you don't know which, so you have to be careful about longitudinal studies on these types of things, and open sourcing it, I think, is a discussion in and of itself, and I think it's something that we should be discussing. I will also say that I would like to bring them back on at some point in time. I apologize that they are not here. It is a pretty cool topic to bring up, and I think that it would be something that we should definitely consider talking about, bringing and helping with the BitShares decks. Now, with that said, does anybody have anything that they would like to say about the topic of gene editing and age in general? Or would you guys like me to just move on and we can cover Talkinator?
Say move on, but Talkinator.
Okay, let's go ahead. And Talkinator, feel free, as always, everybody, if you're very new, you might not know him yet, but if you listened to any number of these Hangouts, Talkinator is frequently here to give updates to the community from what he's doing, because I know he's out in the space looking at everything frequently as well and keeping up to date on things, and he's a developer and an engineer who's also a crypto nerd who has been in our community and been active for quite some time. So feel free, Talkinator, to step up and give everybody the updates that you would like to bring to the community, and we can discuss those.
Thanks very much, Fuzzy, and hello to everyone. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of points about the conference, and also how it connects a little bit also to the testnet release that has just come out. Fox gave a very good summary. There are so many topics from the conference to discuss. I think I'm just going to highlight a few points that I think are relevant just in general to the community. First off, just general compliments to the organizers. I thought they did an outstanding job, both for organizing all of the presenters and arranging the venue and the helpful staff. And also, since there were so many speakers in different languages, that they had live interpreters that everyone could listen to understand the others. Just really an excellent job on their part. I think in general for BitShares and for the graphene community, one presentation that I thought was very intriguing was the announcement of the Graphene Foundation, which potentially could be fostering support for various features that would be applicable across graphene chains. And I think, and they've identified a particular way to organize some sort of sponsorship to support these particular developments. So I think that was an interesting feature applicable to BitShares and others. Another point that I thought was interesting is related to philosophy just in general, because a lot of times, at least since I do not speak Mandarin, there are certain aspects of interest that are lost on me. A lot of times when I read posts from members of the Chinese community, for example, they might either be technical often or perhaps a little bit on the financial side. But here, I think, was a great opportunity to actually hear them speak often about decentralization and focus on individual control of how they can communicate and how they can control their own individual funds. And I think that was inspiring for me to hear from members of the community who I normally cannot understand just because of language differences. And I think one other point that's perhaps relevant to BitShares, and it's a topic that we've discussed before in the past, has to do with the recent open market operations that were introduced in a couple of ways into BitShares. And this has to do with the fees that are collected and to buy into, let's say, BitCNY or BitUSD, and to support that market. And there have been, apart from the merits or demerits of it, BitCrab gave a talk about what those open market operations, a little bit about their purpose and what they're doing, and actually how much let's say BitCNY and BTS tokens have been involved. So since that has arisen in the past on our Hangouts, I would encourage everyone to take a look at that talk by BitCrab. And related to that, because there's always the concern for the proponents of the open market operations has been a shortage of BitCNY. And related to that is what has been released now in the testnet release, which are various feature improvements at the blockchain level related to funds and market operations. A lot of these have been prepared and written up by ABIT, and these are particular BSIPs that are related either to awkward situations sometimes when filling market orders, and they're slightly related to what's sometimes called something for nothing fills, where just because of the small quantities and particular trades on either side of a book, that sometimes prices seem awkward. So a lot of that has to do with just resolving those types of issues. And finally, there are also margin-related issues, and this is also related to shortage of any particular asset and liquidity. Part of the testnet release is enhancements to features related to people who are providing funds and especially margins with core assets. And this is all to enhance liquidity providers and people who are shorting a particular asset into existence on the BitShares network. So I think these are all just interesting topics that are particularly relevant for BitShares. And those were the main points that I wanted to highlight. So thanks very much, Fuzzy.
Well, as you were discussing and Fox was talking about, there are a lot of changes that are coming up in the hard fork. And it's, if anybody's a gamer, you have it where the different patches come out, right? And all these different changes come out. Or for anybody who's a software, administrator who's putting software on to and keeping and maintaining that software that's running on various systems in an environment. There are times when these updates need to be pushed out, right? So I just want to make it very clear that it's important that we have people join the testnet if they're capable of doing it. I would like to personally urge everybody to consider participating in this. And if anybody has any idea how we can keep track of it, I will gladly reward some whale shares to the people who participate in the public testnet. We can discuss that a little bit, but if anybody would like to participate, and if anybody has any ideas about it, let's talk about that during the after party a little bit. Other than that, Talkinator, you talked about quite a bit of stuff at the conference. I saw you up there with Fox with the picture with your taco face. So you enjoyed yourself?
Yeah, that was it was a great opportunity and a privilege to be there and to meet the rest of the team. So it was a great experience.
Well, before I get into any of my points, does anybody have anything that they would like to bring up on this topic?
Was anything discussed about the whole nature of proxy voting and the voter apathy that we've experienced that brought proxy voting into play in the first place, and where that idea stands?
Not that I recall.
Well, you mentioned decentralization was a big topic, and so that's something that is obviously against it. Proxy voting is something that centralizes rather than decentralizes. So I thought maybe there might have been something that came up in those discussions related to proxy voting, but apparently not, eh?
Well, just in my opinion, I think I disagree. But then I'll try to get to maybe to the center point. In terms of individual, I think if an individual has control of their keys and their accounts, they can choose whether to vote directly or to delegate that vote to someone else, since it's still in their control to do so. So I think in that sense, I would disagree with you. But I think maybe perhaps trying to take your perspective, I don't think there was an explicit discussion about proxies. It was just kind of implied at the individual level.
Okay, well, it's very similar to the way that the Bitcoin mining space has evolved. I mean, it was initially supposed to be a decentralized thing that everybody could mine, but because of the nature of that beast, it became centralized in the powerful that had the money and it's the same way with proxy voting. It's people that have social skills, that have a way of amassing a following. They're getting a lot of power, as everybody can see. Now, if the people that are doing that are benevolent, then that's great, but it still centralizes. And the whole idea of decentralization is to take it to where it is more the individual, and those proxies tend to not be that way. So I see it as very similar to the way that the Bitcoin mining evolved and how it became more centralized.
I think that there are some different things that can be done with regard to making it less decentralized. I won't get into it right now because that's a big one, but I think that there are things that we do need to discuss as a community on those fronts. I won't disagree with you. Now, with that said, Talkinator, you mentioned in here that BitShares reached another record with transactions, right? So I just wanted to make that clear and remind everybody that new records are being made. BitShares is the longest chain, to my knowledge, still in the world. And it's the oldest that has been actually able to scale and prove it. So it's a great topic, Talkinator. If there's anything else you'd like to say on it, feel free to. But I wanted to just say, it's a pretty big deal. We have a couple minutes if you'd like to say anything about it.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder. So just this past week, there were 2 records that were set, both one at just from the BitShares all-time historical perspective, where it had reached the most daily transactions yet on its own. And then also there's a particular day during the past week where, for example, BitShares number of transactions / operations had exceeded that of also Ethereum and Bitcoin combined. So this past week has been quite busy for BitShares, and really that hasn't been, it hasn't noticed any problems. I mean, it just keeps on chugging along. So
one last question I had related to this is we've all noticed the increase in the number of missed blocks that all witnesses have experienced over the last year or so. I mean, it's increasing. Has that been discussed very much at the conference?
Not that I recall.
Okay, thanks.
These are some important things that I think we should discuss too.
Exactly.
There's a lot of good stuff, but then there's also things that we have to kind of make sure as a community we maintain. And the cool thing I will say about this is that we can discuss it, and that unlike in other cryptocurrencies where, and I'm not trying to put down other cryptocurrencies by saying this, it's just a fact, where the only vote you have is to sell your coins, or hold them and say, okay, I tentatively agree with this, or tacitly agree with this. Those are your options. We can actually discuss this and talk about this kind of thing and change BitShares. We can even change the code that it uses to do certain things if we need to. And that's pretty powerful to have as a community. And it's good that people are willing to discuss the good and the bad, or the maybe the barriers and the potential pitfalls that we should also explain to and discuss. But with that said, we are about 5 minutes after, and I think that we covered everything pretty well today. So thank you everybody for joining up and participating in this. I will just remind you, obviously, to check @OfficialFuzzy on Steemit, on Busy, on EOS Talk, and on BitSharesTalk.io. You can always join up to those and look to see what I'm up to and what we're doing in the community. And of course, we will be here every Saturday participating in these BitShares talks. Now, with that said, thank you everybody for joining, and we will talk to you here during the after party.